Hello there, it's Jay here from Jay's Vintage Junk, and today, hopefully this will be the final part in our Dragon 32 refurbishment. And we've got the logic board that we did the recap on the last video here. And before I put this back into the computer, I'm just going to do some little bits of cleaning on it. Basically, hopefully just to make sure there's no bad contacts, nothing that's going to cause us any problems in the future like that, where it keep going into black and white every time you tapped on the keyboard. So I'm going to clean these contacts here. But while I'm in here as well, I'm going to do things like give the reset switch there a shot of switch cleaner and oh, excuse me, clean some of these deposits up we've got on this plastic. And this is basically something that's creeping out of the plastic after all these years. I've seen this in other vintage electronics of a similar age. You seem to get this like white deposit on some of the black plastics. It's something that's leaching out of the plastic. So we're going to clean that off. I don't know if it's conductive or not, but I think it's as well to clean it off, not let it build up. So we've got a bit of that on that keyboard connector there, and there's a little bit on a potentiometer up there. And as well as that, we're going to clean the cartridge slot here as well. Make sure that's nice and clean. And as I said already, we'll clean the reset switch there. But as well as this has had some work done on it in the past. This Dragon 32. And if we look underneath, whoever did it, they've done a neat job on the soldering, but they never bothered cleaning any of their solder residue away. It could have even been me, this. I can't actually remember whether I have replaced anything on this particular one. I don't think I have, actually. I don't think I've ever done anything on this one. I might have. I honestly can't remember. I've owned it for that long. But anyway, there is a bit of solder, like there's flux residue round this IC here. There's none round. There's a tiny little bit round where we did them capacitors the other day. So we're going to give the underneath of the board a bit of a clean, just to make it look pretty before it goes back in its case. And to do that, I'm just going to use some, this is PCB and flux cleaner. I've got some blue roll here, and an old toothbrush, which works quite nicely. People say you shouldn't use these, but I've been doing this for, what, well over 20 years, and I've never had a problem using old toothbrushes to clean it, so I've no problem with that. So we'll put a bit of the cleaner just on where there's bits of flux residue. I think that's about it. Is there any more? There's a bit round there. Just let that soak in for a second, and then we'll just go in with the toothbrush and actually start lifting all that old flux off the board. And we'll go around there. Thing with an old toothbrush like this, especially a nice soft one, is you're not going to risk damaging the board at all doing this. You don't want to use anything too aggressive, especially when there's no corrosion really on the board. All you're doing is removing a bit of flux residue. So you're just beautifying the board really. Now it's starting to look better now. There's still a little bit down there. Let's try it. Let's clean that off. Let's just go over that again. I think it's been on here. Yeah, I think this has been on here that long. It really is just stained the board. It's come a lot cleaner than it was, but it's not come perfect. There we go. A little bit down there. A little bit on there. Oh, there's a little bit of solder there that's just pinged off the board. But it's a good idea to clean the board, because you do get things like that from the desoldering pump and soldering. So giving the board a clean is always a good idea. There we go. Just give that a quick blot off a little bit of this blue roll. I am just dabbing this. I'm not pulling it against the pins, because I don't want to bend the pins over and get a load of get a load of paper crud on the bottom of my board. But there we go, that'll be good enough. It's got a lot of that old solder, that old flux residue off. But what we will do now is swap my tops over. So we've got a bit of contact cleaner here, and we're just going to squirt some into that reset switch. Make sure it goes in, and we'll work that in and out a few times. It does work, the reset switch, but you do have to press it quite hard, so a little bit of that in there isn't going to do it any harm at all. While we're in here as well, we'll just give the ICs a push down, because you do get chip creep where they do wander a little bit out of the boards. All them seem absolutely fine. There's only that and that which are actually socketed, so they're the only ones that cause an issue. So there we go, we've got the reset switches had a bit of a clean. Now these are what connect between the logic board and the video and power board, and to be honest, actually they are spotlessly clean. They really are clean, them. They don't need really anything doing it at all. I think they've got a plating on them because they are nice and shiny. So what we will do is we'll just give the cartridge slot there a little going over, and what we're going to do is to take a piece of paper, and what you want to do is fold it so it's about the same size as an actual cartridge, and that's like doubled over twice. And if we get a pair of scissors, and just cut off the excess there. Okay. So we've got a piece of we've got a piece of paper folded up so it's quite thick. You could use a piece of like cereal packet of card or anything for this, but paper's just as good as anything. All you want to make sure it is that it will actually fit snugly in the actual card slot like that. And what we do, in fact I could even fold that over once again, I think we get away. You don't want to go too thick, so you don't want to stress the pins in the socket. So you don't want to go any thicker than a piece of PCB that would actually slot in there. But that should do. And if we just put a bit of the old contact cleaner on the paper, put it in the slot, and just basically all we want to do is just work it in and out the slot a few times. So we just ease it into the slot, and just bring it backwards and forwards a few times like that, and all we're doing is using that to clean the contacts in there, make sure there's no muck or rubbish on them. You can do exactly the same thing with like a Super Nintendo and NES, Famicoms, any cartridge based system. It's always as well every now and again just to give the contacts a bit of a clean. I mean, there's very little come off that. There's a little bit, if you can see the muck and rubbish on the top of that line there, so that's cleaned up quite nicely. I'll just get a bit of my blue roll and just clean my mat off. Just get some of that extra cleaner off my mat there, and we will bring in the base of the computer. There we go. Now we'll just give that a quick wipe down. So I'm not looking for absolute perfection with this this dragon. It is my working dragon that I use when I want to play with dragons, so it doesn't matter if it's a little bit on the messy side. It does get actually used, but we'll get some of the dust out of it. I think we've gone to all the trouble of putting all them new capacitors and everything on there. It's always well just to, yeah, there we go, really nice and clean. I'll give that board a little polish while we're in there as well. There we go. There we go, get the little bits of dust out. And now we can put the logic board, and I should really be wearing my anti-static strap. This is bad practice by me. I will now put my anti-static strap on. I should have done that while I was cleaning, but saying that, we are on a anti-static mat as well, which does eliminate some of the danger. So let's put this this logic board back into the Dragon, and that's it, seated where it should go. We're not going to connect the two together just yet, but we'll get that back in there, and we'll get the screws. I've got all the Dragon screws here and the bits of plastic and everything that we need to reassemble it. That bit goes over the cartridge slot. Now figure out how it goes. It goes like that. Yep. So we need to figure out which screws that. I think that's these longer screws here. Put them in. Yeah, they're right. So that's that one in. Got another one for over here. That's in. So that's them two in. Got a small one down there. This is one of these. Got one for in there. Got another one for in there. Slightly magnetised screwdriver does make this so much easier to do. That's in there, and we've got one for in there, and yes, we do indeed have one screw left, which is good. Okay, that seems okay. That's all lined up nicely. Of course, we should have cleaned that deposits off I was telling about before this, but I've just remembered, so we'll just give these a clean and see if we can get rid of some of this white deposit which gets on the plastic. In fact, that just brushes off ever so easily. So I really don't think it's ever going to cause an issue, but it is nice just to get rid of it. And again, on this potentiometer up there, this has a little bit of it on. We'll just give that a very, very gentle clean like that. And that's that all gone. So it really is just like a little white powder. It's something leaching out of the plastic after these 30 odd years. But fortunately it does just blow away that, that easily. Okay, so the next thing we want to do is look at this connector, because this is probably where we had some problems from in the past with the video going black and white, unless it's that connector there. I don't think it's that connector there. I think that's quite nice and clean. We will spray a bit of switch cleaner in that, and in fact in the, yeah, let's go and do that now while we're thinking about it. We'll give the power switch a quick blast, because we haven't done that. I said it's never caused a problem, but while we're in here, it pays just to give it a quick clean. There we go. So we've cleaned the power switch. And so when we reassemble all this, we will give these sockets, well, at least the cassette in and the video out sockets a quick blast and plug and unplug the leads a few times just to clean them up. But next thing we need to do, like I said, is give this a little going over. And all I think we'll do is just spray a little bit of contact cleaner into there and connect this and disconnect it a couple of times just to make sure that them contacts in there are scrubbed clean. As you see, all I'm doing is just working it up and down a few times, and that should hopefully be all we need. That's making a good enough contact. I think we just probably had a little bit of tarnishing in there, so giving that a clean will have definitely helped. And that's pretty much the most of the computer back together now. We need to Reinstall the keyboard, of course. Let's get the keyboard back out. Now I will just give this a quick blow off. In fact, there's nothing wrong with this keyboard whatsoever. It works, every key works on this, so I'm not going to look at pulling it apart or anything. There's really no need. It'll probably make more harm than good. But I will just give it a quick blowout with my breath before we reinsert this back onto the dragon. Just move these screws and figure out how these little bits of plastic hold the keyboard back in. That's all the screws out of the way. And I think what we'll do, just for completeness, again, we will get a little bit of switch cleaner. We'll just spray a little bit like that in the keyboard connector. You do have to be a bit careful with these cables. They're not the worst, but they're not the best, if you know what I mean. And that's all we really need to do. I've just plugged it and unplugged it a few times just to make sure that basically the contacts in there are nice and clean. And this can go back in position. Now that fits in like that. We have some little plastic bits we need to put in place, just that hold it in position. And we can put the screws in. That's the first screw. I think that's the right way around anyway. If not, we'll have to take it apart and do it again, but I'm pretty sure that's the right way around. Put this one on. And there we go. That's the dragon all back together. We'll get the top of it and we'll screw the top back on. The top over here. And there's the top of the dragon. Let's put that back in position. Yeah, and we've got that right for the keyboard. That all fits nice. We'll just turn it over again now. And we just have the 4 screws remaining. One. So they are a lovely computer to work on, the Dragon 32. In fact, it's so much to say. If you want a computer to restore, you can get one for £30 or under. It's a good computer to buy as a first restoration because they are cheap, they're very well built, very simple, and you can have quite a lot of fun with them. I said they're not the best games computer in the world, but if you want a vintage microcomputer for more than just games, I can highly recommend the Dragon. There's plenty of things you can do with them nowadays, you know, adding 64K of memory rather than the 32 and various different operating systems. I will get rid of my anti-static strap now, I don't need that for the moment, and we'll get some cables and we'll connect this thing up. So the first thing we need is the video cable, and this plugs in on the rear there on the monitor. So what we'll do is we'll give that a quick squirt just before we insert the cable, just like that. Just unplug it and plug it in a few times just to make sure that that's absolutely nice and clean. And what we will also do, because we're going to try and load some software on this now, so we will just give the tape input the same treatment. We'll just give it a quick spray, just like that. And we've got our tape input wire here. Well, it's MP3 input wire on this case. So there we go, that's that in. That's the video connected. I'll connect this up. I think I've got it the right way around. I need to put some yellow tape on whichever one of them's the actual video connector. Then we need some power. And I haven't really mentioned the power brick in this restoration. Basically, if the power brick works, it's going to work. If it's not going to work, I suppose technically you could get yourself in there, but all it is a AC transformer, and if a winding's gone on it, you're going to be looking for a new transformer. 28, it produces 8.5 volts AC at 1.5 amps and 28 volts AC at 250 milliamps. So if you didn't have this, there's other things that could be done. You could convert the Dragon to just use an alternative power supply. It would mean hacking the board up inside it though. Not something I'd recommend. I do have at least one spare Dragon supply, I think. Otherwise it's looking for some AC transformers that would be suitable and building them into a case. So now we've got power in there. Let's plug it in. Now what can I unplug? I can unplug that. Okay, so that's the Dragon connected up. Are we all right there? Oh, that's why it's rocking. It's sat on its wire. There we go, it's nice and stable now. I will point you up at the monitor. Now if this starts to flicker and jump up and down, it's not the computer. I do have a slight issue still with this display monitor, but it's usually fairly stable with the Dragon. We'll see anyway. I'll just get my my tape substitute set up and ready to go as well. Right, that's okay. Right, so it's switch on time and let's see what happens. So I'll flick the power on the back of the Dragon. And nothing so far. I could have them wires the wrong way round. Let's try swapping them over. Yes, I did. And ignore that it's doing at the top of the screen. That is an artifact of this video monitor, which is definitely playing up. Let me see if I can get rid of that. I think I'm going to have to replace my test monitor with something else. I have tried a few different things to get rid of some of the issues with this monitor, and no matter what, they don't seem to work. It is only on composite that it has an issue. It's absolutely perfect on TV, on RGB, on its DVI input, but on composite you get this strange artifacting at the top of the screen. Like I said, it's not the computer, it is actually the monitor. I mean, if we reset the computer, you'll see what I mean. And the reset now works much better than it did before. The picture isn't perfect, but there's a little bit of I can see a little bit of interference down the lines there, but it's certainly very usable, and it does seem to be staying in colour. So let's see if we can load a piece of software on it. Now I think that should be CLOADM. I think that's right. And then we can load. We'll try and see if this is going to load. There we go. That seems to be loading Chucky Egg. We'll actually let this load and see whether, like I said, see if the load actually works. If you haven't seen me do this before, what we're loading off is basically it's an old Android tablet. Like I said, I picked a load of these up years ago and I repaired a load and sold them on. And I kept a few of the ones that weren't worth selling on for this exact purpose. They're absolutely perfect for loading vintage software on computers like this. I have this one with stuff for my Sharp MZ on as well, so I can basically just connect it up to the Sharp and load it exactly the same way as those loading from tape. And let's hopefully we'll see that Chucky Egg will load now. We're about a minute into the loading of Chucky Egg, which is apparently, according to this, it takes 3 minutes to load. The other nice thing about doing loading like this is you've actually got a progress bar by looking down at the little Android tablet. you can see how long it's going to finish off taking to load. I don't know how well our sound's going to come out. Let's see what the volume's set to on this thing. That's menu. I'll put a bit of volume on it so when it loads, hopefully we can actually play something. In fact, have I got a joystick for the Dragon kicking about anywhere? Just have a look while that loads, see if I've got a joystick. I mean, if not, I can play it on the keyboard, but see, we've gone to all this effort. If I've got a Dragon joystick kicking about somewhere, I can plug it in. At least we can play it with a joystick. Unfortunately, I think they're all elsewhere. I was thinking about making a better joystick for the Dragon. I've done it for my... there's a Dragon joystick. I've done it for my Apple II computer. I've made a little adapter cable which allows me to plug an old PC analog joystick into my Apple II, which does make playing games on that a lot nicer. Excuse me, let's plug it into the left joystick port, I think. There we go. And with 2 minutes for, we've got a few seconds left to wait for this to load. But we've got a genuine, it's a Radio Shack, so I think it's a Tandy TRS-80 joystick, but as a Tandy TRS-80 and the Dragon 32 are pretty much the same thing. This will work fine. There we go. That's definitely loaded. I don't think we can get the joystick to work, can we? I can't get the joystick to work for some reason. Oh, I had to listen to the whole of that, did I? No, I still don't think I can get the joystick to work. Let's try it in the other... So I'm not 100% chuffed with how that looks on that screen. In fact, I'm going to try that on a different screen and let's see what it looks like on a different screen, because that's looking pretty horrible. And I think it's that monitor rather than the Dragon. So I've got my other little TFT screen here. So let's see what it looks like on this screen, just as a comparison, because I'm pretty sure that that monitor is just not displaying composite outputs right. It doesn't look as good as it should do. So let's try it on this. And we have to remember, black is the video signal, so we've plugged that in there. It does look a little bit better on that monitor. It's still not as good as I was expecting it to. Let's press enter. Let's try and get this thing to work. Press R to redefine keys. Right, so let's press R. Key selection. Oh, that looks nice and crisp. That is very, very nice and crisp. That's looking really, really good. I don't know how well that's coming out on the camera, but that is looking really, really good actually. There seems to be no, there's no distortion at all on that. Press the key for up, so let's have A. Press the key for down. Oh, we can't have Z for down. Oh, X. So we've got AX,